Simone?
Look, we all know what bad air quality feels like. Well, now individual states will have the power to decide its own emission standards for coal-fired power plants, even though the EPA says its own new rule could result in the deaths of up to 1,500 people each year. Those deaths due to increasing air pollution. Now, despite stark warnings from scientists about the impacts of climate change, the Trump administration is choosing coal jobs over air quality. But today in Washington, the governor vowed that here in our state, coal plants will still be a thing of the past.
Donald Trump cannot stop us. He cannot stop us in Washington from moving forward with clean energy. That's our destiny. We're going to make sure it happens.
This year, Washington passed a law that requires the state to run on 100% carbon-free energy by 2045. It's one of the boldest pieces of legislation in the country, and the state's last coal plant is actually going to stop firing in about 6 years.
So I think the big question here is why then is Washington state vowing to sue the EPA over the new rule?
So the Attorney General says that's because air quality doesn't recognize state borders. Bob Ferguson says this is by far the boldest move so far by President Trump's EPA to roll back Obama-era environmental regulations, and he's won 7 consecutive lawsuits against this EPA so far.
It's either legal or it's illegal, and my team and I feel that the EPA is violating the mission of their office and acting in what the courts would consider an irrational way. It's contrary to their mission of upholding public health and the environment. And that's why we beat them over and over and over again, and we're confident in this case as well.
Now, Ferguson says Washington is not going to take the lead on this case since other states will be more impacted by it, but he does believe a lot of states will sign on. Now, just last night, President Trump was bragging about the country's clean air and his energy policies. Take a listen.
We are creating a future of American energy independence, and yet our air and water are the cleanest they've ever been by far.
But that's actually not true. The Associated Press released a report this week that showed the air quality in the country has gotten worse the past 2 years. The number of days with unhealthy air quality rose 15% last year and the year before when you compare it to the final 4 years of President Obama's administration. Now, scientists say it's too early to tie the change to any environmental policies of the Trump administration. But that being said, many of them worry that rolling back any of these regulations could end up making that a bigger trend.